Let's jump into a summary of The Crooked House by Agatha Christie. When wealthy patriarch Aristide Leonides dies suddenly at his country estate, what appears at first to be natural causes quickly raises suspicions. The elderly man, though diabetic, had been in relatively stable health until his insulin was found to be tampered with. The cause of death, poisoning with eserine, a toxic substance often used to treat glaucoma. Aristide was no ordinary man. A powerful, self-made Greek businessman, he built the Leonids' fortune through a global food empire and was both admired and feared by his sprawling, eccentric family. He lived in what his granddaughter called the Crooked House, a large, oddly constructed mansion where 3 generations of the Leonids family lived together under one roof. Twisted in design and, as it turns out, twisted in secrets. The story is told through Charles Hayward, a young man recently returned from diplomatic service in Cairo. Charles is in love with Sophia Leonides, Aristide's granddaughter. The two had hoped to marry, but after her grandfather's sudden death, Sophia delays their engagement. She tells Charles that they must wait until the question of whether someone in her family is a murderer is resolved. Only then can they have a future. Charles's father happens to be the Assistant Commissioner of Scotland Yard, and through him, Charles becomes involved in the investigation. He travels to the Crooked House and meets the Leonids family, a web of relationships thick with resentment, loyalty, and unspoken history. There is Brenda Leonides, Aristide's much younger second wife, who had been his children's governess before he married her. She is glamorous, idle, and over 30 years younger than her late husband. Her relationship with Aristide raised eyebrows, but worse, she now stands to inherit a large portion of the estate. She's also rumored to be romantically involved with Lawrence Brown, the tutor of the youngest Leonids' children. Brenda and Lawrence are the obvious suspects, young lovers, a rich old man in the way, and a poison that could have been slipped in easily. Then there is Magda, Aristide's daughter-in-law, a self-absorbed actress who treats life like a stage and her emotions like performances. Her husband, Philip Leonides, the eldest son, is bitter and resentful, having been overshadowed all his life by his domineering father. Their 2 children, Sophia and Eustace, complete the family unit. Sophia is sharp, controlled, and loyal. Her younger brother, Eustace, crippled from polio, is sarcastic, sensitive, and often overlooked. Elsewhere in the house is Roger Leonides, the younger son, a gentle and ineffective man who runs the family business into the ground. His domineering wife, Clemency, is austere, practical, and ideologically opposed to wealth. She barely conceals her disdain for the Leonids' fortune, though she benefits from it. And finally, there's Josephine, the 12-year-old daughter of Magda and Philip, precocious, eerily observant, and obsessed with detective novels. Josephine takes to the investigation as a game, noting that she's been keeping a secret diary and knows things no one else does. As Charles digs deeper into the household, Poirot-style, through interviews, observations, and intuition, the dysfunction becomes more apparent. Everyone had a motive. Everyone had opportunity. And almost everyone resented Aristide in some way. Brenda and Lawrence are quickly arrested after incriminating love letters are discovered between them. They had the clearest motive, and Brenda, as the person administering Aristide's insulin, had the means. But something doesn't sit right with Charles. Brenda seems too simple to plan such a clean murder, and Lawrence too weak to help her. Their affair was real, but it felt childish, not calculated. Charles begins to suspect that their guilt is too convenient. And then the case takes a darker turn. Josephine is found unconscious at the bottom of the outdoor staircase. Someone had pushed her. The precocious child who claimed to know too much has now been silenced. She survives, but the message is clear: someone in the house is frightened of what she might say. Shortly after, Nanny, the loyal servant who cared for the children, is found dead, poisoned by a hot chocolate that was almost certainly meant for Josephine. At this point, the idea of Brenda and Lawrence being the murderers begins to collapse. They are in custody. Someone else is trying to clean up the loose ends. Someone is trying to eliminate Josephine, the one person who might be close to uncovering the truth. Poirot is not present in this story, but Charles, operating as the central figure, begins to take on the role of observer and quiet interrogator. He suspects almost everyone in turn: Magda for her theatricality, Philip for his buried rage, Roger and Clemency for their secret struggles, and even Sophia, whom he loves but fears is protecting someone guilty. Eventually, Josephine begins to recover and is moved to a different part of the house for safety. But the danger remains, and the mystery deepens. The diary Josephine had mentioned is found, and its contents prove disturbing. She had been spying on everyone. She knew about the affair, about arguments, about whispered threats. She had been keeping track of everything in the house like a self-appointed detective. Then, the final, devastating truth comes into focus. Charles and the police piece together the subtle, terrifying conclusion: Josephine herself was the killer. 12 years old. Clever. Manipulative. And cold. Josephine, frustrated by being ignored, punished, and not allowed to take ballet lessons, had poisoned her grandfather with eserine. She had read about poisons in her books and stolen it from Lawrence's supplies. Her motive? Simple childish revenge, but twisted through the mind of a brilliant and narcissistic child. She had then orchestrated her own fall down the stairs to gain attention and mislead the investigation. When Nanny suspected the truth and threatened to reveal it, Josephine poisoned her too. Her diary, full of carefully constructed lies and observations, had been her weapon. The final twist is quiet but chilling. Edith de Havilland, the elderly aunt who had cared for Aristide's first wife and stayed on to manage the family's affairs, realizes the truth before anyone else. She takes Josephine out for a drive, supposedly for a treat, but instead, she drives the car off a cliff, killing them both. In her note, she writes that Josephine was evil and would only destroy more lives if allowed to grow up. It is an act of justice, or possibly mercy, carried out by someone who understood the child's true nature better than anyone. With the mystery resolved, Charles and Sophia are left to pick up the pieces. They are free to marry now, but the innocence of the family has been shattered. In the Crooked House, nothing was as it seemed, and the most terrifying monster had been hiding in plain sight, disguised by youth, intelligence, and a childish smile. Don't forget to subscribe and watch another summary.